Hello, in this video, we're going to be talking to you about the muscles that help with facial expression. Let's not waste any of your time. Let's get right to it. Now, when we're talking facial expressions, we're familiar with what we're talking about. We're talking about all those nonverbal clues that you can give people, situations, conversations, whatever. All those muscles that can be used, the raising of an eyebrow, the wrinkling of a forehead, the curling of a nose, anything like that. That's the muscles that we are going to be talking about. And they're located obviously all through the facial area, from the very bottom chin to the top of the forehead and on down the sides. So we're going to be looking at those. These muscles, as you can see there, number 7, cranial nerve number 7, which we've already dealt with, already talked about. That's where these come into play, and of course something like a stroke, as it says there, can cause the facial to sag. And if you know somebody or unfortunately or have family that has suffered from this, then you're well familiar with this. But that's the muscles that we're going to be talking about. All right, this screen and the next one, we're going to be pointing out some of the muscles that we're going to be talking about and describing. But just looking at this cutaway of a face, you can see right away in the forehead those muscles, the frontalis muscles, that can be used to. I'm doing eyebrows. That's not the right muscles. But they can, wrinkle the forehead, raise the forehead, and of course the eyes can do all kinds of things. There's the wink, there's the close, there's the open stare, whatever it may be, and of course the nose can be wrinkled up, with the lowering of the eyebrows and the kind of the glare. The lips in all different kind of ways, curled up at the corner, open astonishment, and of course the emojis that we all use. Express those very well. Of course, the laughing and all that stuff, but raising of the chin. A lot of things are done with these muscles. Looking at it from the side, again, all these the various muscles that lend to helping with facial expression. That's what we're going to be talking about and looking at, and of course in the lab we can point these out on the models and stuff, but that's the focal point of this video. Okay, also we want to get into muscles that are associated with chewing your food. There's a lot that goes into chewing your food. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but not just the mouth moving alone. You've got muscles that are pulling up the mandible. You've got muscles that are relaxing so it can drop. And then, of course, as we've learned with muscles already, there's opposite muscles that keep the balance, keep the structure, and that pull it back up, open and close, but just the whole chewing process. And of course, the first and foremost, the biggest muscle that chews is the tongue. Many people don't associate it with being a muscle, but it certainly is. It's just a big fat muscle. Of course, it has its own play into the facial expression, with the sticking the tongue out, licking the lips, that kind of stuff, all that kind of stuff. But it does a lot to help us. The tongue, kind of pushes food around, side to side, get it up against those mandibles, or holds it in place so the The front canines, the front teeth can chew or tear, and of course the tongue guides it back in part of the swallowing process. You know that for certain. And if you ever have your tongue has a sore on it, or some condition where it just hurts to swallow, that kind of stuff. But the tongue very crucial in chewing and as you know, in talking in general. All right, so more about the chewing and the muscles are part of that. You've got open mouth. You got biting and grinding. So not only is it muscles in the act of chewing, but the mouth itself, the lips moving, opening. Pulling teeth down, pulling them forward. All kinds of stuff like that. And of course, their attachments are pretty widespread. I mean, you're going to have not so much adults. I mean, we can put a pretty good bite on something. You bite somebody's hand, you bite somebody's arm, and maybe a self-defense kind of move, fingers. That's going to create a lot of damage. But just think what other animals can do, like a dog. If the dog sinks his teeth into your arm, that arm's not coming out for the most part, if it's a good-sized dog. And then when you go even larger, a bear or a lion or a tiger or something like that, if they get clamped, pit bulls come to mind as well, have a very strong head. If you're around pit bulls or those larger dogs, I mean, they just have big heads, which means lots of attachment points. And those attachment points can be up here in the temporal, back here on the back side, of the neck, then on the front side of the neck. And you're going to learn that when we get into you'll learn later on in this video that there are some muscles associated with the head and neck. They're all the way down to the sternum and in the rib area. So they can really pull to create that strong bite. Okay, moving on down, these aren't necessarily the hyoid muscles. You wouldn't necessarily associate it with the face expressions or chewing, but it is, because some of the attachment points are on the hyoid bone. We've dealt with the hyoid bone in that area before. This is the bone here. You can just kind of see a little bit of yellow in there, just at the top, the white of the pharynx. Boy, I just lost my word there. Esophagus area. It's going to come to me. Not the pharynx. Oh, how funny is that? But anyway, it'll come to me, and probably on the screen here from an. But anyway, the hyoid bone there, when we looked at it in the picture, it was inverted, so you can see the lesser wings. Maybe that'll jog a memory. But you can see all those bones associated with what's going on upstairs in the head and face. Attachment points down here to kind of generate that big pull. And you can see the big old sternocleidomastoids there on the side. You can literally feel those. That's those muscles that are right there. And again, you can see that attachment point here at the inner edge of the clavicle, the upper part of the sternum. Big, strong muscles to use, and of course, if you just to generate that pull or that usage for the chewing, talking, that kind of stuff. Okay, more on the hyoid muscles. And again, as we mentioned, the muscles come from below, and the suprahyoids open. And you can see the list there of things that don't need to read that to you. Again, multiple choice questions galore there. So be sure you capture that information. But just looking at the diagram, you can see it. Of course, always remember the whites. That's the tendons. That's the attachment point to bones. But just the assortment of muscles and their attachment points. Larynx was the word I was looking for earlier. Just hit me. Okay, so now as we move down to the pharynx, part that is part of the breathing, letting the air go through, muscles associated with that, and of course it's got to go past that area. That's the area that little flap covers. If you're taking a drink and every once in a while a little bit of that water or whatever the liquid is will get down into the pharynx, and you got to cough that back up, or at least until it is removed and not blocking the airways or restricting the airways. But that's the idea. It drives that food down into the esophagus as part of that chewing. And of course, we've talked about this kind of stuff, but this is referring to where the originator is, the action muscles, the support muscles, the muscles that extend, the muscles that pull. And so, as I mentioned earlier, that it's all in the vertebrae column in the back, in the front, the thoracic cage, pectoral girdle on the clavicle there. So all those muscles, come down and have those attachment points to make that good strong pull. Whether you're going to lift the chin up, whether you're going to turn your head, dip down, you are going to rotate it, tilt it, whatever it may be. All those muscles have the attachment points, the big muscles down below, as a way to help that get that to happen. And of course, you've got the extenders down in the neck, as we referenced a couple of times. We're going to see a kind of a triangle, kind of a fulcrum way of looking at this. But again, more information about where these muscles are attached to, what they're attached to, and the flexors, the extensors, flexors, whatever it might be. But here on our last screen, is a really good look at how this operates, kind of as a simple machine. You can see the diagram. We've got these little triangles, and so whatever action is happening or going to happen, you can kind of see the muscles associated with it. So if it's just a simple lifting up of the chin, and you can see the attachment point by the ear, okay, that's going to kind of pull that up. And then when you want to bring it back down, you can also see that little triangle from like the A3 to the A1, the muscle originates down in here and kind of pulls that back down. If you want to lean it to one side, you can see the P diagram there that kind of associates with that. But the turning, the pulling, so you kind of can see from a fulcrum, simple machine kind of standpoint, where those angles come from and how that facilitates doing that. Well, that's our muscles over facial expression and chewing, things like that. When we come back here next time, we're going to be talking about muscles of the trunk. We'll see you then.